First of all, my name is Lata Guta. Today I'm gonna present on the topic of fundamental of database system. Fundamental of database system. If you are a newcomer for this channel, please subscribe, like and share this video. But if you have any comment or any suggestion, please put a comment, so I'm waiting you. Don't forget to subscribe. Let me start my today's presentation about fundamental of database system. Before we starting the introduction part, let I show you some important question which may help you during your reading. The first one is to know the term what is data. Before we starting the term database definition, anyone must understand the meaning of the data and also some types of the data. In case of data have three types. The first one is structural data, the second one is unstructured data, the third one is semi-structural data. So which data type can we store in a database? Is structural data, is unstructured data, is semi-structural data. So any student must understand which types of data we can store in a database. We cannot store all the data at once, but which one is more preferable to store in a database. And also what is information, and also what makes information different from data, and what is the similarities and what the difference between them. The other one is the concept about metadata. What mean when we say metadata, and also management approach. There is three different kinds of management approach are there: manual based, file based and the database approach. This data management approach have three techniques. We use three options. Which one is good, what is advantage, what is disadvantage, and which one is more preferable to use, we can see also. And also defining some common term in a database. The first most common terms in a database is the database itself. The second one is database management system. The other one is program data independency, user view, database administrator, end user, connect, transaction, deductive database system, persistence object, metadata, transaction, processing, application. This is all about the common terms we can use in a database. And also we have four main types of action involved in a database. Briefly, we can discuss each of them after we are accomplishing this chapter. The other one is what is the responsibility of database administrator. Since we have database administrator, since we have database designer, what is the responsibility of database administrator, what is the responsibility of database designer? You must know this concept. And also what are the different types of database end user. As you know, database end users have many we can classify into different. So what are those, and what makes difference them? And also the capability should be used in a database management system. And also discuss the difference between database system and the information retrieval system. And the other one is what the advantage, what is a disadvantage when we use manual approach, what's the advantage and disadvantage when we use file-based approach, when we use database approach, what's the advantage. If any application or any system have own advantage and also own drawback, what are those? We can see also this one. The other one is users and actors in a database, actor on screen, and the responsibility again. The last one is some common use of database. For what purpose we can use database, why we use database, for what purpose, for what area we can use, what is worker behind the screen, database management system designer and implementer, what is that, what is tool developer, what is operators and maintainer personnel in database management system. Let me start. As you know, that first concept is about data. When we say data, it is a raw fact or a real concern about any people, about object is what we call is data. Can be in a form of text, can be in a form of graph, can be in a form of sound, can be in a form of video segment. When we get data, data can be in a form of text, in a form of graphs, in a form of sound, or in a form of video segment. But we cannot only put separately in this manner. We can also merging together. That means a combination of text with graph, a combination of text with sound, a combination of text with video segment is also it is a data. So they are difficult to interpret or make decision by using data. We cannot interpret data directly, or we cannot take decision depending on a data. Because of that, we can say data is unprocessed raw fact or unprocessed data stored in a database. And also data need to process to get usable or desirable data. So any user or any person who needs some information from data must process the data by using data processing algorithm or data processing technique. We can classify this data into three parts. The first one is structural data, the second one is semi-structured, the third one is unstructured data. When we say data is structural data, the data is put as a form of table or a form of tabular format. That means we can put in a form of table whenever the data is fit some predefined model, we can say that the data is structural data. Or if the data is some structural way, we can store in a database in a form of table, in a form of tabular format, we can say the data is structural data. But when we come with the term semi-structural data is if the partial is structural data, partial is unstructural data, we can say that the data is semi-structural data. The third one is unstructural data. Neither structural data nor semi-structural data, we can say that the data is unstructured data. This kinds of data cannot fit some predefined model, cannot have any structural format, so we can say that the data is an structural data. The third concept about information, we can say data presented in a form of suitable for interpretation is what we call is information. And also any processed data which gives some kinds of information or which gives some kinds of interpretation is what we call is information. So we can say that simply information is processed data. Information is a processed data and cannot be stored in a database. So the difference between them is data is unprocessed data or unprocessed raw fact. Information is a processed data. We cannot take decision by using data, but we can take some kinds of decision by using information. So we can store data in a database, but we cannot store information in a database. This is a concept. As you see this graphical data to information, to get some kinds of information from the data, first of all there is a data. The data is a raw fact we can collect from any environment. Then this is a processing section. We can processing the data by using query or by using tool. We can using tools to process the data, or we can process the data by using some query language. Then after we come processing the data, we get some information. This information, maybe we can use this information for what? For maybe for decision purpose, to take some decision. We can use this information, or to get some kind of report. For example, in case of student may take some different kinds of courses. We can offer a lot of courses, more than 4 or more than 5 courses, All courses have all records or own data. Then after we calculating, and during this processing, after we calculating each student grade, cumulative grade, we get some kinds of information. Maybe someone students have 3.01 grade. Then after that we can take some kinds of decision. If the student grade is more than 3, pass. That means taking some kinds of decision. And the second one is to take some reports, student reports. If you want to take some kinds of student reporting, we use reporting purpose. So we can use the information for decision purpose and way for reporting purpose. The second concept is about database. What is database? When we say database, database is what is a database? Is an organized collection of logically related data. Organized collection of logically related data. Organized collection of logically related data, or any shared collection of logically interrelated data designed to meet the varied information need of an organization is what we call is database. So database is what? It is a collection of what? Logically related data. When we say some logically related data, if the database, if we use database for the purpose of student management system, every data recorded in this student management system must be related with some student information we use for already for a specific purpose. And also a shared collection can be used simultaneously by money department and the money user. We can use database by using money simultaneously at the same time with money department, with money user at the same time. So we can allow it. This database allows multi-user access. And also logically related means comprise the important object and the relationship between this object. Each object, when we say logically related object, each object stored in a database is somehow what more related one. And also the computerized manner of record keeping system is also what we call is database. This means a manner or a way we can store any data or any file in a form of computerized manner is also what we call is database system. To say database, any computerized manner of recording file is also a database. And also database has the following implicitly property. As you know, database have some implicit property. The first one is database represents some aspect of real world. The first implicit property of the database is if the database have some aspect of real world. That means it is a universe of discourse or meaning world. Change in specific file may change the whole data. So we can say the mini world or universal discourse is one implicit property of database. The second implicit property is a logically coherent collection of data with some inherent meaning. We cannot say any recorded data is a database, but we can't say any logically coherent data stored in a database is database. That means if the data what we store is randomly a sort of data, that is not a database. Must have some sequence or some inherent relationship between each data. Each data is needed in case of database. Also, database is designed or built or operated with data for specific purpose. That means we can use or we can develop any database for a specific purpose. That means if we use database for academic purpose, we develop some kinds of database for academic. If we can use database for resort or for hotel, we develop the data for that hotel. If we want to develop the data for research purpose, we develop the data for that research purpose. So we cannot only design or develop a database for general purposes. We can develop for a specific purpose. That means to store some specific data in a database. The other one is example of data. As you see here, this is a data. The table name is data. Under data there is a course name, section, semester, name and rank. MIS 3351 is a course name, 100 is section, SU01 is semester, camp is about the instructor name, the rank is instructor. In this case, as I told you before, data is what? It is a collection of text with number, with any graph or any videos. You can say that is a data. So as you see here, MIS is a text part, this is a text part, this is a number part. So we can store the combination of text with a number in case of course, combination of text with a number. But in case of section we use only number. In case of semester we use only text with number. In case of name we use string or text. In case of rank also we use string or text of instruct. So this is an example of data. That means we can store in any form. The other one is metadata. When you say metadata, data about data, the term define data about data, or data define or describe data is what we call is metadata. Simply any data which give additional description about specific data is what we call is data. So what do we mean when you say metadata? Description of property or characteristics of data. Any data which describes some characteristics or some property of specific data is what we call is data. Whenever we describe this property, whenever we describe these characteristics of specific data, we can define in a form of data type. Which data type we use? We can define in a form of field size. That means data type, there is different kinds of data type. The first one is integer, character, string, boolean, and different kinds of data types are there. So we can define the data in a form of data type. The second one is in field size. In field size, for example, if you use some kinds of character, if you want to write some kinds of character, for example, we put 10 character, we put 20 character, we put 30 character. It means that we allow only 30 character for that specific purposes, and also allow values or documentation. So data that describe data about data, description of the field, display or formal instruction, structure of file and a table, security and access rule, triggering and operational rule is also what we call is metadata. Let we see this example. As you see, this is metadata is about data item and have values. In case of name, there is a course. This course have what? We can write in a form of what? Character. We must use character to write course. How many languages, how many text we can write? 7 character. Then there is no min and a max. From this 3-digit department reference. From this the description same. From this 3 character describe department name and a 4-digit also this section is right in which data type we can use integer. The language is what? 3, mini is 001, 2, maximum is 900. It is what? It is a section number to describe. This description is what we call is metadata. This is also what? Description about this course. Character is description about course. Number of text about description of this course. So any data which give additional information about specific data is what we call is metadata. When we come with the term data management approach, when we come with this data management, keeping your data record, we have three approach. The first one is manual based approach. The second one is file based approach. The third one is database approach. When we say manual based, it is most primitive and a traditional way of information handling. By using this manual file handling system, We can use some traditional way of storing data. We can use some primitive or traditional way of information handling system. It means that we may work well in the form if the number of items to be stored is small. If the items we store is very small, we cannot use this manual file handling system for large file. That means for maybe we cannot use for campus, we cannot use for research purpose. We only use this manual file handling system for only if the number of file what we store and what we access and what we retrieve is very few in number. And also this manual file handling system include intensive human labor. It need high human labor to handling, to store, to retrieve, or to organizing the data in a cabinet. But we can use some kinds of labeling or to store the data in a database. We use some kinds of labeling stored in one or more cabinet, each of the files containing various kinds of information. So we use some kinds of labeling, for example such like A, B, C, D, E, F, G. We can use for a spelling, A for A spelling. If there is Ababe or other, we use some kinds of A label. If there is Baja, Bayene or other, we use some kinds of B label. And also cabinet could be keep it in safe place for security. Most of the time in case of manual file handling system rather than the other security system, we use some physical security system. Means we can putting the data in a very secure place. That means by a place where most of the secure place we can use only for secure place. We cannot put as others. There is some limitation when we use one manual file handling system. The first one is the problem of data organization. Whenever we store the data in case of manual handling system, there is a problem of data organization. For example, during we labeling the data, during we putting the data in a labeled one, we may be some unstructured or unorganized way. We can put unorganized way. So there is a problem of data organization. There is problem of efficiency. That means whenever we put the data in a cabinet in a form of labeling format, if you want to retrieve some for one person to get a single file, to get any single file from the file, it need high time, long time, it need high effort. That means a problem of efficiency. We cannot get the data easily, we cannot access the data easily, we cannot store the data easily. It needs some kind of action which need human labor to store or try to retrieve the data. And also it is a prone to error. When we say the data manual file handling system is prone to error because of labeling, sometimes we wrongly put the data in an structural way. For example, if you want to put the Ababe file in Ababe cabinet or in Ababe file, if you want to put the Ababe record in Ababe file, wrongly we may put an Ababe file. This means it have some prone to error. It is very prone to error and also difficult to update. During you need to update or retrieving or integrating the data together, it's very difficult since this manual file handling system is mostly or 100% paper based. We use paper based to store the data. So if you want to update someone's file, it needs long time to update or long time to retrieve or long time to integrate, and you have the data but it is difficult to compile information. Even if you have the data, even if you have a lot of data about a specific person or a specific organization, it is difficult to compile the information easily. It needs long time to compile information. That means after you collecting all the data together manually, then you can read the data and get some information rather than automatical generation of information. The other one is to overcome the problem of manual handling system. We propose two approaches. The first one is file-based approach, which means it is a decentralized one, and the second one is database approach, which is a centralized one. Since the manual file handling systems have a lot of problem, to fix this problem or to overcome this problem, we will propose to one the file-based approach, to use decentralized one, database approach, decentralized one. Let we see. File-based approach is file-based system where early attempt to computerize the manual file system. This file-based approach is proposed to change manual handling system to computerized based handling system. The first issue or the objective of this file-based approach is to change the manual one to the computerized one. It is a decentralized computerized data handling method. A way of handling the data is not centralized one. It uses some decentralized manner. Since every application defines and manages its own data, the system is subjective to serious duplication. The main problem with file-based approach is since each application manages its own data, the system is subjective to serious duplication. As you see this graph, this is application 1, this is application 2. This application 1 have own file 1, this application 2 have own file 1. Let me take as this one is this application used by department. This may be for academic, but this department used to store student file. Academic also it is store student file. During we assessing the data, in each application 1 and application 2, there is no integrity between application 1 and application 2. Because of that, if you store someone Ababe Faisa in application 1, Faisa, since this one department student, this app1 store Ababe Faisa file in file format. Again, academy need to store some student file. Because of that, it again this app2 or academy store Ababe Faisa file again in another ways. So this app1 and app1 is redundant again. Only it is a series or duplication of data. And also this file-based approach is it is most popular file management system. File-based approach is most popular file-based approach, and approach in which we can store, in which we can retrieve, in which we can managing the data. It is most popular one. And also each file is stored independently. That means this app1 stores its own data, this app2 store on file. Because of that, the data there is no dependency between the data. There is no integrity between the application. Between these two apps, there is no integrity between a file. The other problem in file-based approach is file only contain data. We can store the file containing the data. Metadata is stored in application. We can only store in case of file-based approach, we can store only file only containing the data. We can store only file containing the data. But metadata is stored in each application. For example, Ababe Faisa file is stored in a database, but the metadata of Ababe Faisa is stored in application 1 only. So we cannot retrieve Ababe Faisa metadata stored in application 1 by using application 2. We cannot access the metadata of application 1 by using application 2. That means there is no integrity between the application. And also there is no multi-user supported in case of file-based approach. This file-based approach is not allow multi-user access. For example, if you want to ask if department or application 1 is accessing Ababe Faisa file, application 2 cannot accessing the application 2 or academic cannot accessing Ababe Faisa file, because as soon as application 1 is start to accessing Ababe Faisa file, the application is locked. So we cannot, no other no other application can accessing the same file at the same time. No other application cannot accessing the same file at the same time. That means there is no file. This file-based approach cannot allow multi-user access at the same time. Bear in mind, as soon as application 1 is opening this file 1, this application 2 cannot open this application 1, or we cannot access it. That means there is no integrity, or there is no multi-user access. There is also this file-based approach is what we call is application data dependency. File-based approach is what we call is application data dependency. Application data dependency. The limitation regarding to file-based approach is the first one is, as I told you before, there is redundancy of data. This means this file 1 is stored by IP1, this file 2 again is stored by IP2. This means there is redundancy of data. There is redundancy of data. That makes that give what wastage of space. Since the same data is redundantly duplicated, again and again, it takes a lot of space. Uncontrollable duplication of data. There is separation and isolation of data. Each application have own controlling own data and own controlling management. That means there is separation and isolation of the data. Since file-based system is decentralized one, there is no data sharing between applications. Since there is no centralized one. Since this file-based system use decentralized one, there is no sharing file. There is inconsistency and the confusion. This inconsistency and the confusion is the result of duplication. Since the data is wrongly duplicated, it gives some inconsistency and some confusion, and also some data independency. The other one is incompatible file format. Lack of data sharing and availability. Programs are written in different language and so cannot easily access each other file. In case of limitation of file-based system, incompatibility file format, lack of data sharing, that means we can accessing or we can storing or we can retrieving or accessing the data by using programming language such like C or such like Pylor writing or COBOL. So there is incompatibility file format. And the poor security and administration, update anomalies, that means during modification, during deletion, during insertion. For example, if this file is updated by using application 1, from application 2 this file is not updated at the same time. In case of file-based system, if department is updating Ababe Faisa file, Academy don't have any idea about the updation of file 1. Since the application is not integrated together, this department may applying some anomaly updating the file, but this AP2 cannot apply this update for this file. So to update the file in case of file-based system, if app1 apply some modification in app1, again you must come here in application 2 and modifying this one. Else there is no modification. There is no modification in one time. The other one is database approach. This database approach use single repository of data management system. And also this database have what? One of the main characteristics of database approach is to support data abstraction. This database approach use what? To use some kinds of abstraction, so any user can perceive data. In case of database approach, any user can perceive a data at a preferred level. This database approach store what? Data with what? Data with metadata. But file-based system cannot store metadata, data and the metadata in one place. But database store data and the metadata in the same place. There is application independency. In case of database, there is no application independency. There is what? application independency. But in case of file-based system, there is what? File-based system use what? Application dependency. File-based system use application dependency management system. File-based system is what? File-based system is what? Application based what? Application based dependency. But database is what? Application data independency. File based is what? Application data dependency. Application data dependency is what we call is file based system. Application data independence is what? Database approach. And also database approach is what? A database approach is allows multi-user. In case of file based system, we cannot access the same data at the same time. But in case of database approach, we can access the same data at the same time. In case of database approach, there is a common terminology. The common terminology, the first one is enterprise. When we say enterprise, maybe it is library, maybe it is bank, maybe it is university, is what we call is database approach. The second one is entity. Maybe it is a person or place, thing or object, event about which we wish to keep data. For example, if you want to store about the student, the entity is student. If you want to record some kinds of data about the teacher is entity. In case of enterprise, if you want to develop the database for academy, organization name is what? Academy. If you want to store the data, if you want to develop the database for kinds of research purpose, the organization research center. The second one is attribute. When we say attribute, property of an entity. When we say anything which describe property or characteristics of entity. Characteristics of entity is what we call is attribute. Attribute is what? It gives additional description about entity. Maybe, for example, if it is entity student ID, student name, student age, student telephone, grade, sex is what we call is attribute. This one describe the entity. The other one is record. The geologically connected set of one or more attributes that describe person, place, thing is what we call is logically related data. When you say record, any single file, any single record about a specific object, any single file about a specific place, person is what we call is a record. Also, we can say that record is what? A row one is what we call is also we can say record. File is a collection of related record. A collection of two or more record is what we call is file. Relationship is the association between entity, not attribute. The relationship between entities is what we call is relation. The other one is query. This a question asking of a database. Question asking of